Hello, Firebird Feathers. It is Niina. You're watching Fairy Chamber channel. In this video, want to talk to you about the archetype of the Divine Feminine and the archetype of the Archer. This is very exciting. I'm going to do some pop culture references in this video, so be aware. So I got this revelation when I was watching Once Upon a Time, and I saw Snow White. It's one of my favorite characters in that series, along with Regina and a few others. Anyway, focusing on the character of the Snow White, I realized that the whole symbol of the archer, the archer woman, I realized that pretty much all the female goddesses and many male gods that I admire and feel very close to, they're all archers. A huge amount of them are archers and have a bow and arrow as their symbols. So I wish to talk to you about the Divine Feminine and the symbolism of the bow and arrow and symbolism of the archer, because it's extremely fascinating to research. And the thing is, with Snow White in Once Upon a Time, it's a very tricky series for a die-hard Disney fan like myself. I believe that all Disney fans who are also fans of Once Upon a Time agree with me. That is because in some cases they take the Disney character and do it all wrong, like Megara in Once Upon a Time was so lame. But then some characters they get much more depth in Once Upon a Time than in the Disney animation. This happened with Snow White. I never really liked the original 30s Snow White in the animation. Dwarves were much interesting in that one, but in Once Upon a Time Snow White rocks. And the thing is, her character, it reminded me of my favorite Finnish female goddess, Mielikki, who is the goddess of the forest, goddess of hunt, goddess of luck, good fortune and abundance and healing. She's also the goddess of wounded animals. When I say goddess of wounded animals, this image of Snow White talking to Bambi and forest creatures comes to my mind. So there's definitely a magical connection between Snow White and Mielikki. The thing is, I started to list these qualities that they both have, and they are very similar. So my whole fascination towards archer goddesses and gods, it goes together with my fascination to pop culture figures who are also archers, not just Snow White. But when it comes to Snow White, she's a mother, she's a wife, she's a queen of a kingdom, and in one period of her life she used to live together with the Seven Dwarfs, who are all miners connected with the earth. Then we have Mielikki. She's the wife of Tapio, Finnish forest god, and she has children, all different forest spirits and minor deities, and she is the queen of the forest and queen of Tapiola. And she lives together with different earth spirits and forest spirits, just like Snow White used to. And I found this very fascinating when I started to research it. And then if you start googling images of Mielikki, of different artists, her appearance is quite similar to Snow White in Once Upon a Time. Quite often. It's very, very fascinating. I doubt that the creators of the show thought about it, but somehow they are just similar. When it comes to qualities of Mielikki, she is a very nurturing goddess. She is goddess of good fortune and abundance. Her whole name Mielikki comes from the old Finnish word mielu, which means good luck and happiness. And Snow White in Once Upon a Time, she's very charming and she's very approachable lady. And the thing is, when I compare different archer goddesses from different parts of the world, you can see that they're all very different, but they have few things in common. For example, Artemis in Greek mythology, she's not like Mielikki, because Mielikki, she's a wife and a mother. Artemis is a virgin goddess. She's a kore in that sense. She is connected with the moon and to the spring and winter, and Mielikki is connected with summer and autumn. And also Artemis, she is very often portrayed that her animals are the deers and bear. These same animals are animals of Mielikki, or her symbols. Then in Norse mythology there is Skadi, who is sometimes portrayed with the bow and arrow, but most of the time she's portrayed with skis and snowshoes, so I don't think if she qualifies with this that much. But in Sami mythology there is Yuksakka, who her name literally means the bow woman or the bow goddess Yuksakka. And she in the Sami mythology was one of the goddesses related to birth. She has two sisters, Uksakka and Sarakka. And Yuksakka, the bow woman, she was the protector of the men and boys and male sex, and she was the goddess of hunt and hunting. She's in the shaman drums. She's usually pictured holding a bow and an arrow, and sometimes a shaman drum. But when the child was in the womb, there was this old Sami belief that all the children they were born when they were in the womb, they were first girls. And Yuksakka, when the woman would pray for Yuksakka, she would magically transform the sex of the child to boy or male. And she was prayed by many mothers because the Sami culture, when it was a hunting based culture, it preferred boys over girls, unfortunately. And now I say unfortunately. And the thing is, Sami culture, even though you might see it now as quite back forward, it was a norm in those times, of course. But the thing is, it was not that subsessive as we might now think it was, because women could also own reindeers and rule her own possession. But there are certain traits that the Sami people valued that women should have and men should have, and certain areas of life that were only for men and only for women. So women were raised to take care of the home and family and all that, very what we now see as very traditional roles for women, and where men were raised to become hunters and providers of the family, also what we now see as very traditional stereotype for men. But the thing is, in Sami culture, when they prayed to have a boy child, they hanged these little trinkets to the komsio, which is a cradle in northern Sami, and they had put these little trinkets that presented bows and arrows and spears if they wanted to have a boy. And if they wanted to have a girl, they added these wings and beak and legs of the willow grouse bird. and hope to get a girl that way. So I think it's quite interesting to think that when you put your mindset to it, you can have the child that you want. But most of the time, the families wanted to have boy children because the culture was more kinder for boys. And the thing is, I got to think this, why in some mythology there is then a goddess figure that protects the male sex, why it's not a male god. And there is very little written information about Sami gods overall. There are very limited, literal sources, and even if I talk to my Sami friends, they don't even have that kind of info anymore, because the stories that they were passed as oral knowledge, and huge amount of them were lost because the Scandinavian countries especially have been oppressing Sami cultures for centuries. I started to think this as the point of view of divine feminine, and to me divine feminine, it does not mean it's not directly linked to gender. For me, divine feminine, it means these kind of aspects of human life that nurture your soul and nurture your body and nurture your mind. So maybe this is why Yuksakka was the goddess of hunting, a female blessing for hunting and nurturing the idea of hunting, the joy of using the bow and the arrow. And in a way I would like to think that there has been this Merida type of character sometimes among the ancient Sami people, who was a master bow and arrow user, and she became this Yuksakka character. I would like to think this way. I don't know if this happened, but why not? I never tried archery. I have never shot arrow and a bow. I once shot with the shotgun cans and I missed them all. Really terrible at it. But I understand the appeal of the archery. And when it comes to divine feminine, it is not directly connected with gender. Many people see divine feminine only as maiden, mother, crone aspect, but that aspect can be used as metaphor for a huge amount of things in life. It can relate to birth, life and death, and season changing, and also person growing from one emotional state to another, and person evolving as a human being to become more, I'm going to use the word nurturing since I said the aspects of human life that nurture us. So this would mean tapping the creative energies and these things that really bring you abundance. This is why Mirki is one of my favorite goddesses. And Yuksakka I find very fascinating goddess, even though I don't know that much about her, or there isn't that many things that tell about her. But why otherwise there would be a goddess depicted with arrow and a bow in her hands if there hadn't been some kind of inspiration for it? And when it comes to this whole symbolism of the archer, it is extremely powerful. I could say some of the pop culture references beside Snow White and Merida, Katniss from Hunger Games is a very good example of empowering symbolism of archery. That is, when you shoot an arrow, you will take the position, you will shoot, and you hit your target. That is all about intention. The symbolism of archer is about intention, and the symbol of the bow and the arrow is all about intention, to get what you want. For Merida it was to get her family back, for Katniss it was to save her family and friends and the whole district, and for Snow White it was to save everyone, her kingdom, including her evil stepmother. And this is the divine feminine in action. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have any thoughts about this topic, please leave a comment, and I thank you for watching, and I will see you on my next video. Many blessings. Bye.